What up, nerds? My name is Leslie Smith. Welcome back to the Nerdy Narrative, where today I will be reviewing How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. I felt I owed it to the author since I don't have a whole lot of favorable reviews for him on this channel. I started with the wrong book, I do believe. And while I did almost DNF this one, I hung in. There was enough little tidbits, breadcrumbs mentioned about this house that may or may not be haunted that kept me interested. So I kept going, and about 30% of the way in is where things got wild. So what is How to Sell Your Haunted House about? As you can guess from the title, we've got a haunted house, though we're not quite sure if we really have one when readers first crack this one open. It starts off with Mark calling his sister Louise to tell her their parents had both been killed in an automobile accident. Louise makes plans with the father of her child to take the child so Louise can go home and help Mark get things settled with the estate, bury her parents, and ultimately get closure. The reason why I almost DNF'd this one is because Mark and Louise, these siblings, bickered annoyingly, constantly, knowing that they shouldn't. I mean, it's just the worst time. Family is trying to grieve and they're fighting over everything. Knowing, thinking, I really shouldn't be fighting with my sibling over this, and doing it anyway. They just cannot not fight. It was highly aggravating and I almost didn't make it through, but there was something about the parents' house. And while it wasn't the focus of the story yet, there was just enough unease there that kept me reading. And boy, did it pay off. So because of that 30%, was this a 5-star read for me? No. But did the author give me payoff? Give me why I picked up that book? Yes, I got all of that. I even cried a little bit at the ending. Who knew? I had no idea that author had it in him to bring out that emotion in me. So as I'm sure you've picked up, the characters for me were not what made this book so good. It's not what saved it for me. They were okay. In fact, the character I liked and related to the most was Mark and Louise's deceased father. Some of the things that they said when they would quote something he would say to them as kids to each other is something I would say or have said or believe in, or it made sense to me, and I was like, yes, I would have loved this guy. There were a few secondary characters I really liked. I really liked Mark and Louise's extended family, some of the aunts and cousins, and one of the aunts' friend, Barb. Loved them. Let's talk about the atmosphere. Did Grady Hendrix pull off a great atmosphere for a haunted house setting? Yes, he did. Really excelled in this regard. The way that the house was described, on the outside, it looked so ordinary, inviting even. But when you get on the inside and just weird things happening, not that they were weird. Like, occasionally Louise would try to turn on a light in one of the rooms and it wouldn't work, or there would be a bulb out. That's normal. That stuff happens. But when you combine it with the ambiance that you're getting from Louise and just getting from this house, that wafted up from the pages and enveloped me, the reader, in with whatever Louise was feeling. It was amplified with me. When we got to where things really started being focused on the house, I was a mess. I was having trouble sleeping. I didn't want to go to bed by myself. I was waiting for Chris to go to bed so I could snuggle up to him and be safe. You know, things that happened in my house that were normal, that I was used to, suddenly started standing out to me after reading this book. I'm like, I want to forget this book so I can go back to being able to be in my house by myself. But on the other hand, it's too good to forget. Grady Hendrix's writing style. It's a nice, flowing, easy to understand and keep up with writing style. No complaints there whatsoever. The pacing was on point. Though I wish we could have gotten past the bickering siblings a little faster. Now, as far as the plot, we can't really get into talking about that in depth. It's a haunted house story that pretty much explains itself. In my opinion, there are a few plot holes that were not explained in such a way that I was happy with. There was also a little bit of oversharing at some point. There was one whole section that gave no value to the story, to the plot whatsoever. In fact, it detracted from it a little bit. It went a little more over the top than what you would really want in a story of this type. If you've read it, you might know what I'm talking about. I'll give you a hint. It has to do with Mark. Like, we got everything we needed to know for this to be a great haunted house story without him going into detail about one aspect that I might have missed me. It might have missed me. If you've read the book and you want to talk about it with me, hit me up in my DM. All the places you can find me are down in the description box below. Hit me up. We can chat about it, and you might be able to explain to me how that factored in and did something, but I just didn't see it. Between Horror Store and this one by Grady Hendrix, he's really good at intrigue, except for Final Girl Support Club. There was no intrigue because I just felt like he just plagiarized some of the slasher movies in that book. But if we just pretend that one doesn't exist, the other things I read by him, just like in this one, delivered on the intrigue. I didn't want to put this one down. I'm typically one of those people that my body says at like 10:30, sometimes 11 o'clock, it's time to go night-night. And no matter how badly I want to stay up reading or maybe finish a book, my body shuts down. That was not the case here. Once I got past that 30% mark, I couldn't put this one down. And if I had to put it down for whatever reason, I was constantly thinking about how fast could I get back to it and pick it back up. Fantastic. Looking at the logic aspect, I mean, for a haunted house story, there's some suspension of belief required. That's what makes it fun. But when the author can take normal occurrences, such as like the blown light bulb or a blown fuse, things that normally occur in a home, but influence it in a way that makes it seem sinister and deadly, and then is able to find a way to make it make sense. The whole haunted house thing. I got no complaints in the logic department. All of that factors up and leads us into enjoyment. Did I enjoy this book? Yes, I did. I had so much fun with it. I loved the thrill. I love that he scared the stuffing out of me. I love that he made me be afraid to be in the house, whether Chris was here or not. You know, there was times during reading it, he would be upstairs and I'd be downstairs, like in bed reading, and I'm going, babe, don't you want to come snuggle in bed a little bit? I love that. You know, of course, I'm talking about it in the light of day. That makes it different. At night talking about it, it's a whole different ball game. So I would absolutely recommend this one. Now, I would say get it from your library. To me, this one doesn't have any rereadability to it. Once you read it, it is memorable enough that it's going to stick with you. I don't see how you'll be able to forget certain aspects enough to get the same joy out of it on a reread. And that's coming from somebody who rereads often. I think I'm in the process of rereading like 3 series right now that I've read several times. That magic is not in this story. But again, Grady Hendrix wrote, in my opinion, an unforgettable story. I'm not going to forget this one. I will be recommending this one anytime I talk about a haunted house story. Now, do not get it twisted. This does not usurp my favorite haunted house story, which is The Patience of a Dead Man. My second favorite would be Nick Roberts' The Exorcist House, which there is going to be a prequel to that one, you all. So if you read The Exorcist House by Nick Roberts, the one I talked about it last year, he's writing a prequel. That one also has a film deal, a film or TV series, and I would love to see Grady Hendrix get us one for How to Sell a Haunted House. I would be in that theater like immediately, because it's, 9 o'clock in the morning. I would not go at nighttime. No way, no how, not gonna happen. Fantastic book, enjoyed it. I think you would too. If you read it, let me know in the comments down below what you rated it. And for those of you who haven't read it, you were on the fence about it, did I change your mind? Let me know. Thank you so much for joining me today to hear about my experience reading How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. He may be a hit or miss author for me, but there's something about the way that he writes that keeps me coming back for more. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you in the next one.